Hello everyone, my name is Dmitry. I have a very difficult surname, and today I will tell you about SAP Afaria and how an attacker can compromise your company if you have your employers through the SAP Afaria using only one SMS. So first of all, a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Dmitry. I'm a security researcher in ERP scan company. I specialize on business applications. I did a lot of penetration tests of different ERP systems. Most of them was SAP systems. That's why I know a little bit how an attacker can try to compromise this type of systems. As I said, I work in ERP scan company. We are a group of security researchers who do a security assessment for different enterprise systems, etc. So, if you do not know what is SAP, I will say SAP is the most popular business application in the world. A lot of different international companies use SAP as a ERP system for their works. On the slide, you can see a lot of well-known logos of different companies. All these companies use the SAP for their business processes. SAP has different platforms, but we can dedicate a few main. It's a SAP NetWeaver ABAP, SAP NetWeaver Java, SAP Business Object, SAP HANA. It's a modern solution of SAP. It's an in-memory database, and SAP Mobile platform. It's a mobile solution from SAP company. And today, in previous hour my talk, I discussed how an attacker can compromise company through all these systems. But today, I will tell you about mobile. So, in modern world exists policies, build or bring your own device. This policy permit employers of company to bring personal mobile devices like a smartphone, tablets, etc. to their workplace and to use those devices to access to have access to critical business information or for daily job. So, and of course, companies cares about their confidential information. That's why exists class of application, MDM or mobile device management. This type of application allow to system administrators control employers' devices. MDM solutions allow to apply different policies on the mobile phones, on the tablets, etc. Allow to control what different applications which users or employers can install on those devices. Allow to tracking user, get location of the phone, etc. Actually, it's very, very useful for system administrators, etc. And today, and of course, SAP company has a MDM solution. It's a SAP Afaria. And today, I will tell you about what about security in SAP Afaria. SAP Afaria was released in 1997 by company Session Express. The first version was a tool which allowed to system administrator get a remote control of user computers, but right now we have version number 7, Service Pack 6, and exactly this version. Actually, we analyzed version 7.0 Service Pack 5, but the modern version is a 7.0 Service Pack 6. And so Afaria has a typical functionality for MDM solutions. Afaria allows to get all information about user phone, about user tablets, get information about activities, about calls, about incoming messages. It's allowed to apply different policies, just typical functionality. On the slide, you can see architecture of SAP Afaria. On the left side, you can see a phone. For SAP Afaria, user should install Afaria client on the portable device. Afaria client exists for all modern operating systems, for iOS, for Android, mobile phone, even for Nokia and Symbian operating system. So Afaria client try to get all information from user phone and send this information through the relay server on the Afaria server installed on the company. Afaria server contains database, web server, and administrator console. When we tell about Afaria, we should mention about policies which exist in SAP Afaria. In SAP Afaria exist three different policies, three main policies. It's enrollment policy, configuration policy, and application policy. Enrollment policy is a policy which describes how a client will be connected to a Afaria server. Into this policy, administrator creates a special enrollment code which user enter into Afaria client. Actually, it's not just code. It's a code from URL shortening services, like a tiny URL or something like that. So in administrator panel, system administrator, SAP administrator create this tiny URL code and provide this code to the user. So that means if we try to brute force different tiny URL codes, probably we can get information about different addresses for SAP Afaria, and how client understand which type of URL shortening services was used. It's very simple. The first letter of enrollment code describes which tiny URL services was used. For example, on this example screen, you can see the first chart is a T. It means tiny URL. It's pretty simple. The next one policy is a configuration policy. It's pretty obvious. On this policy, SAP administrator choose which, for example, password policy will be implemented on the portable device. Administrator can disable or enable camera, disable Bluetooth, point, black and white list for Wi-Fi networks, disable screenshot, or maybe he can apply configuration which allow user use phone only in work hours, etc. It's a lot of different configurations, parameters can be set by SAP administrator. And finally, it's application policy. And again, it's a very simple policy, but very interesting because in this policy, administrator can point which application will be installed on the portable devices during the connection. So administrator can point link to application in App Store or Google Play, and in the first connection, during the first connection, this application will be uploaded on the portable device. Also, administrator can upload their own device or their own applications on the application policy, and that's how we can install any application on employer devices. So, and of course, SAP Afaria collect all possible information about user portable device, about calls, SMS, about location, hardware information, application information, which application used, etc. And that's how its administrator panel looks like. You can see this information about hardware, about which operating system used, phone type, about disks, about Bluetooth, as all possible things, and also information about activities, about SMS, when, where, what the network was used, etc. Communication. Of course, Afaria used different protocol for communication. Afaria used HTTP protocol for administration panel. Afaria used XNet protocol. It's a main protocol for Afaria. It's a proprietary protocol, and for main work, so SMS for different commands, and push notification through Google or Apple Cloud, also possible for use. So as I said, the main protocol is XNet. Afaria client uses the protocol for getting and retrieving information from the server. It's a proprietary protocol, encryption exists, all security things are also available. So I think right now you understand what is Afaria, how it works, and what is MDM. Start with SAP Afaria vulnerabilities. And first of all, few good things which I was found into SAP Afaria. First of all, it's obfuscation. I think you do not see, but all Afaria clients was obfuscate. For example, if you try to decompile Android application for our Android client for Afaria, you cannot get a human readable class name, etc., because all source code was obfuscate. Even decompilators crashed during the compilator process. It's a good thing, yes. Also, on the slide you can see a typical HTTP request for SAP Afaria. It's also a lot of different post parameters exist, and even if you change one of them, the HTTP server reject your request. It's also it means it's very hard to understand how it works, because it's a lot of different parameters. And other good things like root detection, etc. That's all. Start with bad things. It's more interesting for me. First vulnerability was missing authorization, because an attacker can send a special XML request to the Afaria server without any authorization and point on this XML request their own IP address, and during the parsing this XML, SAP Afaria will try to establish connection with pointed IP addresses, and during this connection Afaria disclose some interesting information about version, about components, etc. It's very useful for future attack. So on the server side, we find a lot of different overflows. In mine Afaria services XC listener, so, attacker can. It's a very silly vulnerability. Attacker can send just a big request, and XC listener will stop. It's very stupid, but they exist. So that's how an attacker can easily stop SAP Afaria. vulnerability very easy, but for big companies, even this type of denial of service attack is very dangerous because sometimes if we can stop an ERP system or other critical system, some business processes can be stopped also. So another one example of buffer flow, which allow, as a result, execute some arbitrary code on the operating system of server, of Afaria server. Right now, SAP, of course, close those vulnerabilities. The next one, vulnerabilities, it's a lot of different hard-coded values of different places in SAP Afaria. It can be some file settings. For example, in this file, setting file, attacker can find username of Afaria operating system and password for this user. Of course, password was encrypted, but with encryption also not very well, because if you talk about encryption, actually encryption is good. Main problem of encryption, it's a hard-coded key. So Afaria used a good encrypt algorithm, but I found a lot of hard-coded key for into file, in source code, a lot of hard-coded key which allow to an attacker easily decrypted all sensitivity stuff. For example, this key or this key. As you can see, Afaria use IS encryption, but again, encrypted key, it's very bad, hard-coded encryption key, it's very bad practice. So that means if an attacker knows this key, he can easily get information, all encryption information. And sometimes we see very strange encryption functions like this one, encrypt string. Actually, this function do nothing, just returns exactly the same string. Go next. Web-based vulnerabilities. As I said, Afaria administrator panel, it's a web application. That's why probably a lot of different web-based vulnerabilities exist into administrator panel, and we found few vulnerabilities. I will tell you about stored XSS, how an attacker without authentication can inject a malicious payload, JavaScript malicious payload into administrator panel. But first of all, I should describe what happened if we will try to send connection request to the Afaria server without any authentication. If we try to send to the Afaria server request where we point when we send, if we send, hey, I'm an Android phone with IME 123, I have version 3.2.1, blah, 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 what happened? Of course, Afaria returns the message, this client is not approved, but what's interesting, on the administrator panel, Afaria, on the device list is a main workplace for administrator, the default place. When administrator open admin panel, device list will be showed for administrator, and into device list we can create a line with our Android, with our phone name, with some information about this phone, about IME, etc. But this device will not be approved. So, and that's how we can inject some information with authentication into administrator panel. But our goal is to inject JavaScript and the injection exists into IME field. So we can inject, we can point into IME field our JavaScript payload, and this JavaScript payload will be executed into administrator panel. But little problem exists because IME field has a restriction on the light. IME can be only 15 char set of length. So, but we cannot create any useful payload with 15 char set. But we can send a lot of different requests with different IME and point JavaScript payload, all this little payload. After that, will be concatenated in one big useful malicious JavaScript payload. That's how it works. We just send a few requests on each request into IME field of each request. We point a little part of our payload, JavaScript payload, and after that, we concatenate all these little parts for creating one big JavaScript payload. Now I will try to show you a demo. 1 second. Yes, it's our Afaria administrator panel. As you can see, we have on one device, and oops, I wrote exploit which allowed to inject. And we try to inject just alert. As you can see, our exploit sent few requests, and if we refresh administrator panel, we got a lot of different new devices, and we can trigger XSS. So that's how an attacker without authentication can inject information, or can inject malicious JavaScript. 1 sec, I delete all this. All this junk devices. So go next. And of course, SAP close those vulnerabilities. So, and finally, my favorite vulnerabilities, it's control devices via SMS. As I said, SAP administrator, Afaria administrator can control devices of employers through the SMS. It's a very useful functionality for administrator because, for example, if employers lose their phone with top secret information, administrator can send SMS on this phone for locking device, for example. So, and Afaria provide different type of SMS command, and in Afaria exists different SMS command, for example, for wipe, for lock, for unlock devices, for notify, for applying new policy, for example, etc. So let's see how an SMS looks like. On the screen you can see a SMS for locking user. SMS contains few parts, three main parts. It's a signature. If we will send a SMS with the signature, first of all, Afaria client try to parse this SMS, and if Afaria client see into SMS this signature, he knows it means for Afaria client it's a control SMS, and this type of SMS will not show for the user. So first of all, the signature. After that, base 64 SMS notification string, and after that, ID of command and the command name, which will be executed if we provide successful notification string. So the most interesting part of this SMS is, of course, notification string. Actually, its notification string is SHA 256 hash, but we should know what exactly was hashed. Hash contain three main values. It's a last administration session, it's a client ID, and it's a transmitter ID. Actually, transmitter ID, it's just server ID. So we should know session, client ID, and server ID. Looks good. We should know session. But if we try to decompile, for example, Android application for Afaria, we can see actually Afaria tried to compare not only one hash, it tried to compare two different hashes, D2 and D. The first hash, it's our typical hash which contains session, client ID, and server ID. But the second one hash, it's a hash without last session ID. It contains client ID twice and server ID. So that means we need to know only two values. It's a client ID and server ID. So we do not know. We don't need more session ID. It's very cool for us. So the question is, what about client ID and server ID? Can attacker get these values without authentication or not, and how it works? So actually, transmitter ID or server ID can be resolved without any authentication by sending any connection request to the Afaria server. Afaria server insert in every response to the server information about server ID. So what you need, you just send any request to the Afaria, and you get information about server ID. So we need only last one value, it's a client ID, or we also discovered client ID is based on IMEI of phone. So if you know IMEI of phone, you can generate a client ID. So that means if you know IMEI of the phone, you can create a control SMS for the Afaria. And the question is how to get information about IMEI. Actually, it's how to get IMEI. I think it's a very big question, and but I decided a few ways. For example, it's information disclosed from some other application which installed on the employer devices, because some of them can transmit information about IME through the unsecure HTTP request on the server, and an attacker can tamper this information. Next one, where it's vulnerabilities into SAP Afaria, for example, our XSS vulnerabilities, exactly this way I will use on the next demo. Third way, it's a brute force, because IME of the phone, it's also predictable. It contains serial number of phone, part number, etc. So if in a company buy a lot of phones for the employers, and if an attacker know one IME, he can increase value for IME and try to brute force. And as we know, SMS messages do not show for the user. This is how it can be invisible for the users. This is how an attacker can use a brute force. And finally, exists special devices, different IME catchers. It's special devices which can provide information about IME of phones which connected to the base station. So that means IME is not a problem. Now, demo time. So, 1 second. We have a phone. With Afaria. And now first of all, we should get information about IME. As said, we can use our SMS vulnerabilities. I wrote an exploit which generate a malicious JavaScript, inject this JavaScript code into admin panel, and get information about all connected phones, get information about IME of these phones, send this information back to the attackers, and generate, get information about server ID, and generate different SMS comments. So generate comments, get IME via XSS, choose the payload. Yes, now we generate different requests for injection our payload. Now we're waiting. IME trigger the XSS. Still waiting, IME. Yes, we got IME. And also, we automatically get information about transmitter ID. We just point one again. And as a result, we get a SMS TXT file. With SMS for different actions. So, and we have our Android devices. Android device, we can send SMS on them. Oops. SMS sent, sorry. Yes, we can send SMS, sorry, HIT. And what if we send SMS for log device, for example? One sec. And just SMS for locking device. Second. Yes, it's our device. We send SMS, and for locking, very little screen, very small screen resolution. That's why it's so comfortable. And our device was locked, and actually, for locking, Afaria generate random password for the user for the lock screen and enables the lock screen. That's why after that SMS, after the command, user do not know password and cannot unlock their phone, for example. For unlocking, we should again send SMS for unlocking. And device was successfully unlocked. But my favorite SMS, it's SMS for wipe command. SMS for wipe command, and that's how it looks. We just sent, and all information from the phone was wiped, and phone was powered off and shutting down. So it's very interesting, and I think if someone from top management of big international company will be surprised if in one day he will get this type of SMS and all information about company, all information about critical document on their phone will be wiped. So that's how it works. Back to our presentation. Of course, SAP right now closes those vulnerabilities. For defending your system, you should install this SAP knows this patch, but the conclusion is for different enterprise solutions, security is should be the main things, because even SAP Afaria, it's a solution which should protect user data, which should protect data, critical data of companies, but even into security solution exists this type of vulnerability which allowed an attacker to compromise company information inside this company. That's why companies should be very careful when they try to implement different security tools, security solutions. So if you work in big company, please do not forget about patch, do not forget about security assessment, etc. And do not buy any junk solution which some guys try to sell you. Thank you very much.